It was an extremely ancient sword. An evil aura was being released by the sword. That made it so that one couldn't help but stare at it. After a long time, Wang Lin slowly awakened. His eyes lit up as he gained some understanding. 3 days later, the entire Tang family city was covered in flowers as thousands of cultivators walked through the streets. Zhang Hu and Wang Lin had left early in the morning and were wandering around in the city. Because Zhang Hu needed to sell the ginseng, he left after talking to Wang Lin for a bit. Wang Lin slowly walked through the city while checking out all of the stalls. Some of the stuff really interested him, but the prices were simply too high, so Wang Lin left. While he was walking, he suddenly stopped. Before him was the stall of a cultivator who had various flying swords, pieces of jade, and a thread-bound book. There were a few small words on the book. Basic formation research. Formation? Wang Lin rubbed his chin and picked up the book. The little book was pretty thick. There were about 50 or 60 pages in the book. The stall owner was a 30-something-year-old man. He raised his head and slowly said, 10 mid-quality spirit stones for the book. If you're not going to buy it, don't carelessly touch it. 10 mid-quality spirit stones was all that Wang Lin had at the moment. After flipping through the book for a bit longer, he saw that the stall owner was getting impatient, so he put down 10 mid-quality spirit stones and left. He checked out a few more stalls and found somewhat element materials, but they were all very expensive. There was even a piece of iron wood, but its price was unfathomably high. A day had passed before Wang Lin even realized it. He returned to the inn, and just as he was about to step inside, he raised his brow and stopped. Normally, at this time of day, the inn was really lively, but it was completely silent at the moment. Wang Lin spread out his divine sense and his face suddenly changed. There was a mysterious force surrounding the inn that was preventing Wang Lin's divine sense from going in. Without a word, Wang Lin's body immediately moved backwards. He surrounded his body with the attraction technique, and his body shot back dozens of meters like a sword. "What's this? Your reaction was pretty fast." A slightly surprised voice suddenly came out as a person walked out of the inn. This person was 25 or 26 years old and wore a white robe with black vines embroidered on the cuffs. He looked at Wang Lin, who was quickly backing away. He sneered and said, "Ting, the two of you wait here for that kid Zhang Hu. Destroy his cultivation, then throw him into jail while I catch this nimble brat." The moment he said those words, 2 shadows shot out and appeared next to him. The 2 shadows were 2 wrinkly-faced old men. One of them said, "My lord, these 2 people are in Tang family city. This is against the rules. If the head asks." The white-robed man frowned and stared Wang Lin. He said, "If my grandpa asks, just tell the truth. Zhang Hu got help from an outsider to kill his own teacher. How could I let such people get away?" With that, he waved his sleeves and his body flew into the air as he quickly chased after Wang Lin. The 2 old men looked at the young man before leaving, then disappeared without a trace. Wang Lin released all of his power and pushed himself to the limit to run away. Right as he saw the walls of the city, a few shadows suddenly appeared and shouted, "Feng family city has a restriction on flying. Fellow cultivator, please stop." Without a word, Wang Lin took out a gourd. He didn't have time to worry about the secret of the spirit water getting out as he took a big gulp. Spiritual energy filled his body as his speed exploded, and he shot forward. The expression of the Tang family disciples, who were blocking Wang Lin's path, suddenly changed. Wang Lin charged through as he used his attraction technique to throw the disciples to the side. Like an unstoppable force, Wang Lin broke through. Because of his actions, more than 100 Tang family disciples riding on different treasures chased after him. Wang Lin felt very bitter in his heart. He still didn't really know what exactly was going on. He didn't know what had happened back at the inn to cause those people to be waiting for him there. If he was just slightly slower, he would have already been caught. As for Zhang Hu, Wang Lin could only wish for the best as he was in danger himself. After leaving Tang family city, Wang Lin kept racing south as the Tang family disciples chased behind him. Suddenly, a rainbow-color light shot out from Tang family city. The light passed by all of the Tang family disciples and shot at Wang Lin. An almost unreal large flying sword appeared and slashed down at Wang Lin. At that moment, lightning gathered into countless balls and fell down with the sword. Wang Lin's scalp felt numb as Situnan shouted, This is a nascent level treasure. Wang Lin, retract all of your divine sense. I'm going to teleport you. Blue crystal quickly spread from the crystal in Wang Lin's hand and covered his body. The moment that happened, the giant sword fell down. Sounds of the ground shattering echoed and the balls of lightning fell, creating waves of lightning. Wang Lin's body disappeared the moment the giant sword fell down. His body reappeared 300 meters away, and he immediately flew away. Situ Nan's voice sounded weak as he scolded Wang Lin. That little bastard is already at the foundation establishment stage at that young age. If you were at the foundation establishment stage, I could borrow your body and use some techniques. But right now, with only your chi condensation cultivation level, no matter how much I help, I can only get rid of a mid-stage foundation establishment. Teng Li frowned but immediately smiled. You are the first person below core formation who has escaped from an attack from me. If it wasn't for Brother Jima asking me to do this, I really wouldn't want to kill you. Wang Lin didn't even turn his head as he quickly escaped. His consumption of spiritual power was too great. Without any hesitation, he took out a gourd and drank a gulp as his speed rose. Teng Li's eyes became cold and said, I want to see how many times you can teleport. With that, he pointed his finger at Wang Lin. The sky darkened and the giant sword appeared again. All of the lightning balls roared as the giant sword swung down. Situ Nan didn't wait for Wang Lin to give him permission. He instantly teleported them again after cursing a few times. Teng Li frowned. He snorted and waved his right hand. The flying sword followed his hand and chased after Wang Lin. 2 rays of rainbow followed one after the other as they flew across the sky. The Teng family's disciples chased for a while before giving up because they couldn't keep up. The more Teng Li chased, the more shocked he became. With his late-stage foundation establishment cultivation, every time he caught up to the brat would teleport away. The more Wang Lin acted like this, the more interested Teng Li became. Teleport was a nascent soul technique. Wang Lin wasn't even at the foundation establishment stage, but could use teleportation. In Teng Li's eyes, Wang Lin must own a treasure that did this. Thinking about that, he licked his lips. The urge to kill Wang Lin for that treasure became even stronger. He was very good friends with Old Man Jima's eldest disciple, Chanzhong. A few days ago, he received a voice transmission jade from Chanzhong to kill 2 people. One of them was Zhang Hu, who was the disciple of the 5th disciple of Old Man Jima. Zhang Hu got outside helped to kill his teacher, and at the moment of the 5th disciple's death, Old Man Jima detected it. That Zhang Hu didn't know that besides the poison, there was also a secret technique that Old Man Jima used to control his disciples inside of him. By using this technique, he saw everything that occurred. In a fit of rage, Old Man Jima used the technique to predict where Zhang Hu would be and sent out his eldest disciple, Chanzhong, to find the 2. Chanzhong was very far away, so he sent a message to Teng Li to help him with this matter. Teng Li did a search and found that Zhang Hu was indeed inside Teng family city, and the person with Zhang Hu must have been his accomplice. Those were the events that lead up to now. Originally, he just planned on helping as a favor, but now he was determined to kill Wang Lin for the treasure that allowed him to teleport. Thinking about that, his speed increased as he chased after Wang Lin. Wang Lin drank a large gulp of spirit liquid. He then opened his mouth and spat out a ray of green light. The moment the green light appeared, the smell of blood filled the air. Soon, the green light flashed as it shot backward while Wang Lin continued to charge forward. Teng Li could clearly see what was going on. He didn't mind the green light at all and let out a sneer. He pointed at the green light and a lightning ball appeared that shot toward the green light. The moment the lightning ball touched the green light, it exploded. Teng Li looked at it with a look of contempt before withdrawing his gaze. Just at that moment, a ray of green light flashed 10 meters before him. The light shot toward Teng Lin and hit his body. His clothes were instantly destroyed, revealing glittering armor. After the green light was stopped by the armor, it immediately flashed and disappeared without a trace. Wang Lin secretly sighed and felt very regrettable. The green sword appeared in his hand as he continued to run away. Sweat appeared on Teng Li's forehead. What just happened was simply too dangerous. Even with his late-stage foundation establishment cultivation, if he was hit, he would have been seriously injured. Also, the light that sword released showed that it wasn't a simple treasure. He guessed that if he was hit by it, he would have died on the spot. Li touched the armor his grandfather gave him and felt like he was very lucky, but his urge to kill Wang Lin had increased even more. A cold light flashed across his eyes as he muttered to himself, "Besides the treasure that can teleport, he also has that sword. Little guy, all of your treasures will belong to me." In a desert 3 days later, Wang Lin drank a gulp of spirit liquid and muttered to himself, "There isn't enough spirit liquid left. I must find a way to quickly replenish it." Situnan weakly said, "Kid, I can't hold out much longer. I have used teleport too much in these past 3 days and don't have much essence left." Wang Lin turned his head and his eyes were filled with killing intent as he coldly said. He caught up again. He touched his bag of holding and a green sword appeared in his hand. The sword's color was dull, and there were a few scratches on it. In these 3 days, Wang Lin had used the sword many times, but since Li was already on guard, it was hard to launch a sneak attack. Also, Wang Lin's sword couldn't penetrate even an inch because of Li's armor. After sending out the flying sword, Wang Lin spread out his divine sense and found a forest to the west. The forest was covered in a layer of fog. After pondering a little, without a word, Wang Lin flew to the west. In the blink of an eye, he arrived at the forest and descended to the ground. Wang Lin knew that he was running out of spirit liquid and Situnan couldn't teleport anymore, so if he stayed in the air, he would be caught for sure. It would be better to give up on flying and travel on foot in the forest. Although he didn't know why this forest was covered by fog, he found that when he spread out his divine sense, his senses became muddy and he could only feel a dozen meters around him. Shortly after Wang Lin entered the forest, a rainbow arrived at the edge of forest. After circling the air around the forest, Li stopped at the entrance. He had used up too much spiritual energy chasing Wang Lin in the past 3 days. If he didn't have recovery pills with him, he would have already given up on the chase. But the treasures that Wang Lin possessed had always kept him hooked. He wished he could immediately kill Wang Lin and take the treasures. Also, he didn't expect Wang Lin to last for so long. Even though Wang Lin could use a teleportation treasure, he didn't expect it to be this hard. He thought that because Wang Lin still hadn't even reached the foundation establishment stage, he would be able to outlast Wang Lin. So he wasn't in a rush during the entire chase and was waiting until Wang Lin ran out of spiritual energy to kill him in one blow. But he gave up this idea after the second day of chasing. Instead of slowing down, Wang Lin's speed increased as the chase went on. After observing for 3 days, Li was completely shocked. He saw that Wang Lin would constantly take out a gourd and that every time he drank from it, his speed would increase. He had seen this countless times during the 3-day chase. The urge to kill Wang Lin became even stronger. Li stood outside the forest. His eyes became cold, but he was a bit nervous about the forest. He thought, "This wild jungle is very mysterious. It is constantly surrounded by a fog, and even grandfather said to stay away from this place. Now should I keep chasing or not?" After pondering a little, Li made a decision. The treasures Wang Lin possessed made Li determined to make them his own. There were many ancient trees that reached the sky and were filled with leaves. The ground was covered with half-a-meter-thick layer of dead leaves. Countless poisonous insects crawled on the ground and snakes quickly moved through the leaves. 1,000-year-old trees could be seen everywhere. Countless types of flowers filled the ground, and many different types of beasts inhabited the area. The smell formed by the rotting leaves and animals created a stench strong enough to kill. This place was covered by fog year-round. Strange trees grew tall enough to reach the sky and beasts as powerful as nascent soul cultivators lived here. If one was not careful, then it would be easy to lose one's life here. Wang Lin spread out his divine sense as he quickly moved through the forest. Situnan quickly shouted, "Stop! Quickly stop!" Wang Lin's body stopped in an instant. Situnan sucked in a breath and slowly said, "What kind of place is this to still have blue line vines? These blue vines are causes of disaster. A rank 2 country was wiped out by blue line vines before." "Blue line vine?" Wang Lin was startled. Situnan seriously said, "Before you is a vine, and on the vine there is a blue line. What is this?" "Wait, this isn't blue line vine. Strange. Wang Lin, this should be a baby blue line vine. You better avoid it, because adult blue line vine is a nightmare for cultivators below core formation." This stuff is very sensitive to blood, and every time it devours someone, it evolves. If it manages to reach the intermediate stage, then not even spirit-forming cultivators can resist it. Also, this stuff is very sensitive to fluctuations of spiritual energy, so don't use techniques to attack it. Wang Lin looked around with a serious look in his eyes, and his gaze fell on a vine in the distance. This vine looked very normal besides the thin blue line on it. Otherwise, it looked exactly like any other vine. Wang Lin pondered a little. He didn't listen to Sitanan's warning, but walked forward without emitting any spiritual energy. He carefully pinched the vine and slowly pulled it out. After pulling it out for 3 meters, he let go and backed up. He cut his finger and flicked a drop of blood onto the vine. The moment the vine was hit by the blood, it immediately began to flail as a few more blue line vines came out of the root and gathered together. After stirring for a while, they calmed down. Sweat appeared on Wang Lin's forehead. He faintly grinned and quickly left. Soon after he left, Teng Li arrived as well. Teng Li had been using techniques non-stop to catch up to Wang Lin, and Teng Li didn't even bother to pay any attention to the few vines on the ground. Although his divine sense was restricted, he could clearly feel that Wang Lin was very close. He let out a sneer as he moved faster, but just as he passed some ordinary-looking vines, a change occurred. 2 days later, Wang Lin was next to a creek, filling his gourd with water while carefully checking his surroundings. His expression suddenly changed as he cursed, "This is never going to end." He sent out his flying sword, put away his gourd as he jumped across the river, and ran deeper into the forest. A moment later, Teng Li carefully chased after Wang Lin, not daring to use any spiritual power. He looked very pathetic. His clothes were torn and his armor had lost its luster. His right arm was limp as he chased after Wang Lin. His hair was disheveled, his face was pale, and his eyes were filled with rage. His hatred for Wang Lin had reached an unimaginable degree. He had always been treated like a genius ever since he was little, and never before had he been put into such a pathetic situation. All of this was caused by Wang Lin. The vines 2 days ago almost killed him. He never thought that such small vines could be so deadly. When the liquid the vine shot out hit his armor, it started to dissolve the plate. If it was only that, then it would be fine. He would have killed it with his flying sword. However, this vine was undying. Every time he cut the vine, it would divide into more. Even the lightning ball created by the flying sword couldn't stop the vines. Then there were sneak attacks by Wang Lin's strange flying sword. His right arm was injured by the flying sword. Finally, Teng Li had to take out his life-saving treasure given to him by his grandfather. The treasure was very powerful, but it only had one use. He had never used it once ever since he received it, but he knew that if he didn't use it now, he wouldn't be able to save his own life. In the end, under the power of the treasure, a majority of the vines were destroyed and the rest retreated back underground. Teng Li used this opportunity to finally escape. Thinking about it now, his forehead got covered in cold sweat. As for Wang Lin, he now hated him to the bones. Especially the fact that Wang Lin never attacked him head-on and always sneak attacked him. With that strange flying sword Wang Lin possessed, Teng Li had to keep his flying sword floating around him at all times. He carefully checked the river. After hesitating for a bit, he drank some water from it as he was very thirsty after chasing for 5 or 6 days. The water felt very refreshing and sweet. Teng Li felt rejuvenated and was about to drink more when his heart suddenly skipped a beat. A small green sword quietly appeared before him and stabbed toward his head. Teng Li quickly retreated without any hesitation as he called his own flying sword to protect him. The two flying swords collided with each other, but the green sword was clearly at a disadvantage. After a while, the green sword gained a few more scratches as it suddenly flashed and disappeared. Teng Li looked at the hair the small green sword had cut as he screamed at the top of his lungs. "Damn it! I swear that when I catch you, I'll let you experience all of the torture in the world and then refine your soul." Wang Lin was running through the jungle as his face suddenly turned red, and he swallowed a mouthful of blood. The green sword appeared next to him. He felt pain in his heart when he saw the new scratches. A cold light flashed across his eyes as he kept running. Late into the night, 5 days later, Wang Lin and Teng Li were still running through the jungle. They had already entered into the deep part of the jungle, and on that night, Wang Lin suddenly stopped. Situnan quickly said. Brat, you noticed it too? There is a very powerful spiritual fluctuation northwest of here. Go check it out. In these past few days, he had been on his toes using all of his knowledge to help Wang Lin avoid one danger after another. Without a word, Wang Lin changed his direction to northwest. Shortly after, he arrived at the spot of the spiritual fluctuation. The scene before him caused his pupils to contract. Under the moonlight was a giant tree that had been completely uprooted, laying on the ground. The area was clear of everything besides a dead body lying on the ground. Above his head floated a green bead as spiritual energy gathered from all directions, forming many smaller swirls. Situnan was stunned and said with a surprised tone, "A green core? Didn't think there would be a green core from a rank 4 country here." Wang Lin asked, "What is a green core?" This is the rank 4 country's demon sex special cultivation technique, the green core or the fake core. Unlike normal cores, you can have as many green cores as you wish. I remember that there was a madman from a rank 4 country who had tens of thousands of green cores. Not even spirit-forming cultivators from rank 5 countries would dare to mess with him. It has to be said that besides the ability to increase your cultivation, what makes the green core deadly is when it explodes. It is really powerful when tens of thousands of those green cores explode at once. Wang Lin's eyes lit up and he suddenly asked, "How many green cores does this person before us have? Can you tell?" "Him? Only one is pretty good for him, and this person is also not a living person. He is clearly a zombie that has intelligence. He was probably a demonic cultivator from a rank 4 country that used a technique before his death to turn into a zombie." That zombie had clearly already seen Wang Lin. He didn't move but raised his finger and flicked. A green light shot out straight toward Wang Lin's forehead. Wang Lin quickly retreated and dodged the green light. The green light didn't chase but made a circle and stopped. The green light projected a blurry image that released an unclear voice. "Leave this place, you die." With that, the image's body moved as it disappeared. Soon, the massive amount of spiritual energy fluctuation disappeared without a trace as if it was completely covered up. Wang Lin carefully backed away without even batting his eyes. After a bit, a cold light flashed across his eyes and he no longer ran away, but spread out his divine sense, waiting for Tong Li to catch him. Tong Li's flying sword circled around his body, getting rid of anything in his way. He suddenly noticed something as he smiled. He pointed his finger forward and his flying sword shot out. Wang Lin's shadow was within sight. Tong Li became excited as he checked his surroundings. Wang Lin's actions put him on guard. He sneered. "How come you're not running?" Wang Lin pointed with his right finger and the green flying sword appeared. He waved his hand and the green sword shot out. Then he took out a piece of jade, then spat out a mouthful of spiritual energy onto the jade. Suddenly, 4 golden characters appeared from the jade. Tong Li grinned. He bit his finger and flung out a drop of his blood onto his flying sword. Suddenly, the flying sword shook as it released demonic light and grew into a great sword. Countless lightning balls appeared as well, but there were clearly a lot less than before. The moment the great sword appeared, it released a cold aura as Tong Li swung it down. Wang Lin's small sword teleported and arrived behind Tong Li. Right before the sword could strike, Tong Li touched his bag of holding and a bell suddenly appeared and attached to his body. The small green sword struck the bell and waves of ripples appeared on it. While the great sword was swinging down, Wang Lin pointed his finger and the 4 golden symbols shot toward it. Wang Lin backed up until he arrived at the place he saw the zombie. The 4 symbols all exploded after they collided with the flying sword, sending it back up. However, there were simply too few golden symbols, so after pausing in the air for a bit, the great sword continued to swing down. Crackling sounds came from the ground as the ground clearly couldn't handle the pressure. All of the giant trees in the surrounding area fell over. Just as the sword came down, Wang Lin's body was covered in a blue light and he teleported away. Just as the sword was about to come in contact with his body, he teleported 100 meters away with a stream of blood trickling down from his forehead. The great sword slammed down into the ground with a bang. Soon after, a ghostly scream appeared and a ghostly figure that smelled like a rotten corpse charged toward Tong Li. Tong Li's expression suddenly changed. He already had his suspicions, but he didn't expect such a creature to be living here. He pointed his finger forward as the lightning balls slammed into the zombie. The lightning balls were very powerful, and lightning was also the weakness of all undead. They immediately exploded when they touched the zombie. The zombie let out a scream as part of its body was blown off, revealing black bones. Tong Li sneered as he waved his left hand. Suddenly, more than 10 lightning balls appeared around the flying sword. The lightning balls charged toward the zombie, with the great sword following closely behind. Wang Lin secretly thought, "Not good." He didn't think that the zombie would be this weak and was about to escape. The zombie also noticed that something was wrong, and in a life-and-death situation, it let out a scream and spat out a green core. The moment the green core appeared, it immediately exploded. A wave of energy expanded outward in a ring around the zombie. All of the surrounding plants turned to dust, and Tong Li, who was simply too close, bit the tip of his tongue and spat blood onto the bell attached to his body. In a flash, the bell went from a half-transparent state to a more solid form. There were many ancient patterns on the bell. The moment the wave hit Tong Li, the bell shook violently. It only lasted a few seconds before it cracked. Using the time the bell bought for him, Tong Li threw out one treasure after another. As the bell broke, defensive layers went up in front of him one by one. The countless layers of colorful defensive barriers were quickly broken through by the explosion like a sharp blade going through paper. As for Wang Lin, because he was very far away and the zombie was mainly targeting Tong Li, the shockwave didn't affect him much. When the waves arrived, he calmly took out a piece of jade and threw it in front of him. The jade immediately cracked and released a yellow gas that surrounded Wang Lin. His eyes pierced through the yellow gas and locked on to Tong Li. The shockwaves created by the explosion had started to weaken, but almost all of Tong Li's defenses had been broken. When the last layer of defense broke down, Tong Li pointed his finger at the zombie, ordering his great sword to stop its attack. At the same time, Tong Li quickly backed up 50 meters. He had already developed a deep fear of this zombie. If it wasn't for the fact that he had so many treasures, he would have already died. It has to be said that even though the zombie's green core's explosion wasn't as strong as a normal core's explosion, it still took Tong Li's late-stage foundation establishment cultivation with a ton of treasures to barely resist it. He was completely terrified that the zombie would throw out another green core like that. He had already lost all his urge to kill Wang Lin and only wanted to escape. Wang Lin had always been staring at Tong Li. He let out a faint smile as a cold light flashed across his eyes. He raised his right hand before him, put two of his fingers together, then gently pushed forward. Suddenly, a green light flashed and Tong Li felt pain striking his back as he was backing up. He panicked and, without looking back, continued to retreat. Wang Lin frowned. Tong Li's almost broken armor managed to stop the sword from piercing through his flesh. Wang Lin's eyes lit up. He bit the tip of his tongue and spat out some blood. The small green sword appeared in the blood and let out a loud sword hum, then quickly flew toward Tong Li. While in the air, the green sword suddenly teleported and stabbed toward Tong Li's back. Tong Li suddenly turned his head. His eyes were bloodshot and revealed a vicious gaze. A few pieces of jade quickly flew out of his bag of holding, forming defensive barriers. At the same time, he raised his left hand and pointed at Wang Lin. His great sword suddenly paused and sliced toward Wang Lin while several lightning balls appeared and smashed toward the zombie. He was betting on whether Wang Lin's flying sword stabbed himself first or if his great sword would cut Wang Lin in half. If Wang Lin used teleport to escape, then he would lose control of the flying sword and give Tong Li time to escape. He was already almost out of gas, so if he stayed around any longer, he would be digging his own grave. Situnan screamed, "Mad! You are mad!" Without waiting for Wang Lin, Situnan decided to teleport them. Right as the blue light appeared, Wang Lin shouted, "It is not time to teleport yet. Stop!" A vicious look appeared on his face. Without looking at the great sword, he controlled the small sword to dodge the defensive layers and appeared before Tong Li. Tong Li panicked. His great sword was already half a meter above Wang Lin's head. A stream of blood flowed from Wang Lin's forehead. Wang Lin didn't even bat an eye as he grinned and said, "Die!" The green sword flashed. It pierced through the armor and Tong Li's body, followed by a trail of blood. At the same time, Situnan used teleport. A blue light flashed as Wang Lin's body disappeared under the great sword and appeared before the bloody Tong Li. The great sword smashed down and created a deep rift in the ground. Wang Lin ignored the blood on his forehead, knelt down, and put his hand on Teng Li's body. Situ Nan knew what Wang Lin was thinking. The heaven-defying bead suddenly lit up and a stream of energy flowed from the bead into Teng Li. Teng Li's body quickly froze into an ice sculpture with a terrified expression on his face. All of this happened in a short period of time. It happened so fast that the zombie didn't even realize what had happened. When it realized that Teng Li had been frozen, he cautiously looked at Wang Lin. All of the lightning balls that were charging toward the zombie dissipated. Even the great sword shrunk down to a small silver sword and fell into the rift on the ground. Wang Lin grabbed the ice sculpture and slowly backed away as he pointed the green flying sword at the zombie. The zombie stared at Wang Lin and screamed. It was about to charge at Wang Lin when it looked at the rift on the ground. During that moment of hesitation, Wang Lin had already moved more than 300 meters away and disappeared with a teleport. The zombie let out a roar and shot a look of frustration at Wang Lin's direction. It jumped into the rift and retrieved Teng Li's sword with a look of excitement and swallowed it. Wang Lin held the ice sculpture. His face was pale as he quickly moved through the forest. After making sure no one was following him, he finally relaxed a bit. He took out a gourd of spirit water and chugged it all down before sitting down cross-legged to cultivate. The forest was silent. After a long time, Wang Lin opened his eyes as Situ Nan's discontented voice came. "Brat, are you crazy? If I was a bit slower, you would have lost your life." Wang Lin deeply said. That was the only opportunity to kill Teng Li. If his spiritual energy recovered, there would never have been a second chance. This person has also chased me for several days. If I let him live, he will be a nuisance in the future, so I decided to take the risk. Also, the speed of the great sword depended on how much spiritual energy he had left in his body. Back then, he was almost out of power, so he couldn't have been faster than my sword. Situ Nan was silent. He found himself feeling as if he had just got to know the real Wang Lin. After a long time, he said, "You are qualified now. With that state of mind, you can establish your own sect in this cultivation world." Situ Nan's voice was no longer filled with arrogance, but with a bit of respect. If it was himself in that situation, he wouldn't have dared to risk it. Wang Lin didn't speak but stared at Teng Li, who was trapped in ice. His eyes lit up and he said, "Is it fine to steal his foundation?" After hearing Wang Lin's question, Situ Nan replied, "It's completely possible. He is at the late stage of foundation establishment, so if you use him to break into foundation establishment, your cultivation level will rise faster than normal. Also, you will receive a bit of his talent, so your own talent will increase. This kid is already so strong at this early age, so his talent must be amazing. Haha, this time you got something good from your gamble." With that, Situ Nan explained the chant and the process of stealing foundation again. It wasn't until the sun went down that Situ Nan finished. Wang Lin spat out the green sword and stabbed it into a giant tree nearby. After carving a hole in the tree, Wang Lin jumped inside with Teng Li. He didn't put away the green sword, but had it float around him. The hole wasn't large and was very moist, but Wang Lin couldn't be bothered by that now. He washed his wounds on his forehead with spirit liquid before he started to cultivate. In the morning of the next day, Wang Lin opened his mouth and spat out a mouthful of spiritual power that turned into mist. Wang Lin didn't stop as his hand formed seals and shot out a blue light. The moment the blue light entered the spiritual energy mist, it started to move like boiling water as it shrunk and expanded. Wang Lin's expression remained calm as he kept moving his hand and shot blue light into the spiritual energy mist. As more blue lights got shot into it, it started to shrink and expand even faster. Immediately after, he moved his right hand and grabbed Teng Li's body. Situ Nan melted the ice without Wang Lin even asking. In a flash, the ice crystal surrounding Teng Li disappeared. Wang Lin's eyes lit up as he pointed his hand at the spiritual energy mist. The mist entered Teng Li's body. His body suddenly shook as his face revealed a painful expression, but his eyes remained closed. Soon, all of the mist entered Teng Li's body. Wang Lin took a deep breath as he revealed a serious expression. He bit the tip of his tongue, then drew a strange blood symbol with his hand. Wang Lin waved his right hand and the symbol landed on Teng Li's chest. Teng Li's body violently quivered as his arms and legs convulsed and blood flowed out of his orifices. However, the blood didn't drip down, but converged together. Soon after, a crisp snapping sound came from Tung Li's body as his face turned red and a strange shade of red appeared on his skin. Drops of blood seeped out of his skin. Wang Lin's expression became even more serious. Without even blinking once, he drew another blood symbol that landed on Tung Li's chest. Tung Li suddenly opened his mouth and let out a few miserable groans as all of the blood vessels in his body broke. Blood flowed out of his body and gathered in the air. In the blink of an eye, a giant ball of blood floated above Tung Li. His red-colored body quickly turned pale. Wang Lin's forehead was covered in sweat. He watched the ball of blood as he quickly formed seals and sent out techniques toward it. Soon, the ball of blood slowly shrunk until it was the size of a fist, emitting a blood-red light. Wang Lin took a deep breath. His entire body was soaked in sweat. Without stopping, he spat out more spiritual energy and shot blue light into it. Then Wang Lin motioned with his hand and the mist went into Tung Li's body again. Tung Li suddenly opened his eyes. His eyes had no light and were bloodshot. His lips quivered and his jaw was clenched. Wang Lin drew a complex symbol in the air with his right hand. Then he bit his finger and flicked a drop of blood onto Tung Li's head. Tung Li let out a groan as his body started to violently twitch. Things started to move under his skin and made their way to his chest. Not long after, Tung Li's body visibly shrunk as all the muscles and veins in his body formed a big ball of meat on his chest. Wang Lin's eyes lit up. His right hand waved and sent out another technique. With a bang, the ball of meat separated from Tung Li's body. His body was now just a bag of bones. Wang Lin took a deep breath and spat out another mouthful of spiritual energy. The energy entered the ball of meat and, after a while, it shrunk down to the same size as the ball of blood. Wang Lin revealed an exhausted expression. He took out a gourd and drank a gulp before he started to cultivate. After a short while, he opened his eyes and pointed at Tung Li's body. Suddenly loud cracking sounds filled the air. All of the bones in Tung Li's body crumbled into bone powder and formed a ball of bone dust. Blood, meat, and bone balls lined up, releasing a demonic aura. Wang Lin sighed and muttered to himself, "In order to steal one's foundation, you need their blood, meat, bones, soul, and spirit root. Also, the person can't die when you extract their blood, meat, and bone. This technique is just too cruel." Situnan slowly said, "This is nothing. In the country I came from, there are demonic sects that steal cores. That stuff is really cruel. Not only does the person who has their core taken suffer, even the person stealing it has to suffer, all for less than a 1% success rate." Wang Lin pondered a little and regained his focus. He pointed his hand at Tung Li and started to chant. As Wang Lin chanted faster and faster, white gas was coming out of the pile of meat that was once Tung Li's body and gathered in the air. After an unknown amount of time, the white gas got very dense and formed a human shape. If one looked closely, the figure looked exactly like Tung Li. The little person's eyes revealed a confused look and his body shook. Slowly, the confused look disappeared as he looked viciously at Wang Lin and let out some silent screams. Wang Lin didn't even bat an eye. He waved his hand and a red light appeared. The little person seemed to be afraid of the red light and tried to escape, but the area 3 meters around Tung Li's body was like a prison. No matter how hard the little person tried to escape, it couldn't get out. Finally, the little person saw that he couldn't escape. He let out a vicious look and charged toward the red light. Wang Lin revealed a deadpan expression as he waved his hand. The red light circled around the little person a few times and pulled it toward Wang Lin. Wang Lin knew that the soul extraction step was very important. He must safely extract the soul out of that 3-meter range without breaking it. Although a broken soul won't affect him stealing the foundation, he wouldn't be able to use Tung Li's spirit root to improve his own if the soul were to break. That little person's face revealed a painful expression as the red light slowly pulled it out. In the blink of an eye, half of its body had been dragged past the 3-meter mark. At that moment, a yellow light shone from the little person's body, and the yellow light broke the red light. The little person quickly retreated back into the 3-meter space, and with the glow of the yellow light, the little person became more solid. Wang Lin's face darkened as he stared at the little person. His hand moved to cast the technique again. The little person's face revealed a look of horror as he spoke. If you kill me, my grandfather won't let you go. He is a nascent soul cultivator, so if you kill me, you will die for sure. A cold light flashed across Wang Lin's eyes. He spat out a lot of spiritual energy. Then, he constantly casted one technique after another on the spiritual energy until it became a thin line. The little person's fear became even worse as he said, "My grandfather already knows that I am in danger and he should be here any second. You." Before he could finish, Wang Lin waved his hand. The line wrapped around the little person and pulled him out. The little person struggled and screamed, "Grandfather, save me!" The yellow light glowed stronger as it resisted Wang Lin. Without a word, Wang Lin slapped his bag of holding and took out a gourd of spirit water. He poured the spirit water on the line and the line suddenly became as thick as a thumb as he pulled again. This time, no matter how hard the yellow light shone on the little person, it would no longer resist Wang Lin. The little person was pulled out of the 3-meter range. The moment the little person left the 3-meter range, the yellow light transformed into a yellow gas cloud, forming a shadowy figure inside. The figure wasn't clear, but a voice rang out, "Fellow cultivator, please stop. We can talk about this." Wang Lin was startled, but Situnan quickly said, "Don't worry, this is an illusion avatar of a nascent soul cultivator. This is different from a physical avatar because it can't attack, see you, or even know your location. It only allows you to hear what he has to say. Also, looking at this illusion avatar, this person is very far away, that's why it is so blurry. As for why it is there, it seems he really loves Tengli, so he always leaves that piece of divine sense with him." Without a word, Wang Lin pointed at the little person. The little person immediately stopped, struggled, and shrunk until it was a ball that released purple light. The illusion avatar seemed to have noticed that Tengli's soul was being refined. He shouted, "You killed a Teng family member, so you must pay. I will find you one day and I will kill you." At a mountaintop tens of thousands of miles away, an old man in black robe stood up with a dark expression. His eyes lit up. He clenched his fist and muttered to himself, "Li Er, your grandfather promises that I will avenge you." With that, he hit his chest with his right hand and coughed up black blood. His right hand rapidly drew in the black blood, forming countless strange symbols that floated in the air. Then, purple-colored small people appeared and sat in the air. The little person shouted, "Curse go!" The little person's hand formed a seal as his divine sense split up and fused into all the symbols. Curse complete. The old man's soul visibly shrunk. It seemed he wasn't afraid to waste his energy at all. Those symbols with divine sense infused into them glowed a demonic light as they floated into the sky. They covered up half the sky, forming a formation, causing thunder to rumble. Curse turn. The formation started to slowly turn. Blood-colored lightning appeared in the sky, forming a strange diamond shape. Curse close. The little person let out a shout as the earth shook. He spat out more soul energy as the formation spun faster and faster, and the strange blood-colored lightning became more and more solid. Soon, the formation shrunk until all the blood-colored lightning was engraved onto the diamond shape. The pattern slowly fell down from the sky and imprinted onto the forehead of the little person. The little person let out a dark smile and said, "If you kill people of the Teng family, you will be cursed by me." Inside the hole in the tree were 4 balls floating before Wang Lin. He pointed his finger at Teng Li's remains and countless specks of gold light floated out of the remains. These specks of light were countless and, of them dissipated into the surroundings. Wang Lin took a deep breath. He knew that these specks of light were the so-called spirit root. He spat out a mouthful of spiritual energy to devour the spirit root. The devoured spirit root immediately began to reject Wang Lin, and the other disappeared. Wang Lin was only able to devour of Teng Li's spirit root. Just as at that moment, Wang Lin's forehead started to shine and a purple diamond appeared on it. Wang Lin immediately noticed it. He raised his hand to touch his forehead and his expression suddenly changed. Situnan quickly exclaimed, "This person really is high-handed. Wang Lin, you have been cursed by a nascent soul cultivator. With this curse, once you enter a certain range of him, he will be able to instantly teleport next to you. I didn't expect him to give up his own lifespan to use this complicated formation curse on you." Wang Lin suddenly stood up. His face was dark as he asked, "Is there any way to break it?" Sitanan pondered a little and proudly laughed. Actually, you don't have to be too worried. This type of curse doesn't have any offensive capabilities. It only allows him to locate you to teleport to you. Although this person's curse is good, I have spent a lot of time studying curses like this, ones that use formations and the fluctuations of spiritual energy in the world to apply the curse. I can't cast any because I have lost my body, but I can still help you break them. With my help, cover your aura. As long as you aren't too close to him, he won't be able to find you, so relax. Wang Lin, this is also another resource. I know of this ancient technique that can be used to make the curse to affect the caster. It requires you to be at the core formation stage, then with some help of pills you will be able to steal half of his cultivation. Your luck is pretty good, kid. Wang Lin pondered a little. He pointed at Tung Li's spirit and began to absorb it. Tung Li's spirit started to swell up and churn. Then the blood ball quickly shot up and melted into the spirit. Gradually, the spirit began to shrink and the ball of meat and bone also melted into the spirit fog. The spirit had changed greatly. It was now a narrow ring that was floating in the air, emitting a gentle light. Wang Lin took a deep breath. He knew that he was already at the last step. He became even more focused as he placed the soul into the ring. After a long time, the ring suddenly emitted a bright light. Wang Lin's eyes lit up and he quickly bit the tip of his tongue and spat out blood. The moment the blood touched the ring, there was a sizzling sound and all of the blood instantly disappeared. After the ring fused with the blood, it started to tremble. The ring started to emit a powerful pressure, and all of the living creatures within a kilometer of Wang Lin felt the change. Several powerful auras appeared and quickly charged toward Wang Lin. Wang Lin didn't even bat an eye. He waved his hand and the ring quickly fused into his chest. A powerful surge of spiritual power suddenly flowed through his body, causing his face to become red. Wang Lin took a deep breath. His body moved and like an arrow as he quickly disappeared into the forest. Not long after he left, a giant python suddenly reared its head. After smelling the area, it revealed a confused expression. After shaking its head, it turned around and left. After that, a 10-foot-tall ape arrived as fast as lightning. It charged into the hole in the tree and searched for a while, then left feeling frustrated. A few more powerful beasts came to check, but they all left in confusion. Wang Lin ran through the jungle with his body filled to the brim with spiritual energy. In addition, as he ran, a foul-smelling black liquid came out of every pore in his body. Wang Lin felt like his body was being torn apart, so he frowned and stopped. After walking in a circle, his eyes flashed and he activated the attraction technique with the large amount of spiritual energy in his body. The dirt on the ground moved to the side as if there were two giant hands pushing it. Soon, a bottomless pit appeared in the ground. Without a word, Wang Lin jumped into the hole. Then the dirt was moved back into the hole and everything returned to normal, as if nothing had happened. Sitting cross-legged underground, Wang Lin focused his attention to organize the spiritual energy in his body. His body was constantly changing to foundation establishment. With the silence of being underground and no one bothering him, Wang Lin started his third closed-door training. Time flew by and in the blink of an eye 2 years had passed. The ground above where Wang Lin was doing his closed-door training was now covered in layers of decomposing leaves with poisonous insects crawling within them. On this day, the ground suddenly shook and countless poisonous insects scrambled out of the leaves. The dead leaves were pushed apart, followed by a layer of dirt from the ground as a dark figure emerged from the hole. The moment the figure appeared, all of the insects let out fearful screams as they quickly backed away. This foundation stealing technique sure is mysterious. I've finally reached foundation establishment. This dark figure was Wang Lin. Wang Lin's gaze was like electricity, and his whole body was filled with powerful spiritual energy. He opened his mouth and spat out a green light that turned into the green flying sword. Wang Lin's eyes lit up. He raised his hand and the sword sheath flew out as he muttered. After 2 years of refining the sword sheath, it's almost completely mine. When used with the flying sword, its effect must be very powerful. After putting away the sword and sheath, he pondered for a while. Then he touched the bead on his chest and thought, Sitanan used up too much nascent soul essence 2 years ago when he helped me escape from Tungli. He also casted a spell that prevented Donghua from finding me. He has already been sleeping for more than a year, and I'm not sure when he will wake up. Good thing I have already memorized the underworld ascension method. Now I just have to find a place with a lot of yin energy to practice it. After making up his mind, Wang Lin took a deep breath and spread out his divine sense. He suddenly moved north until he arrived at a river and washed away all of the black dirt on his body. After finally washing all the dirt off, he felt very refreshed. Sitting on a rock near the river, he recalled his previous near-death experience and felt a lot of regret. He didn't know whether Zhang Hu was still alive or not. He prayed that Zhang Hu managed to survive. Letting out a sigh, Wang Lin put away those thoughts as he began to ponder. After a long time, Wang Lin formed a seal with his right hand and shot out a ray white of light. The moment the white light appeared, its color started to change. It changed from white to gray, and its color gradually darkened as it quickly flew towards the west. Wang Lin was stunned. This technique was something Situ Nan had taught him. It was used to find a place with very strong yin energy. The darker the color of the light, the closer he was to a place with extreme yin energy. When the light was black, it meant he had found the place. Without a word, Wang Lin quickly chased after the light that had already turned gray. The light turned darker and darker. When it turned black, it suddenly collapsed and disappeared. Suddenly, Wang Lin stopped. He stared dumbfounded at the distance. He was so shocked that he was unable to say a word. Before him was an endless ruin. There were collapsed buildings and trees as far as the eye could see. The ruins were covered with overgrown vegetation with small animals running through them, occasionally letting out screeches. There were cracks in the ground that looked like they were devouring the life on the surface. The large amounts of metal wreckage mixed with the growing green vegetation gave off a sense of ruin. The depressing atmosphere would make anyone's heart shudder. Wang Lin took a deep breath. He was completely stunned as he stared at the ruins. Just at that moment, from within one of the towers in the ruins, a pillar of white light shot out. Wang Lin was startled. His expression changed as he turned his head toward the nearby jungle. He saw a small beast covered in blood crawling towards where the pillar of white light landed. There was a wound deep enough to see the bone on its right leg. As it walked, it left behind a trail of blood. After a long time, it finally arrived under the pillar of white light and let out a scream of joy. In only a few seconds, the wound on his leg was mended and the small beast was fully healed. It happily shook its body before leaving the pillar and disappearing into the distance. Currently, the light pillar was still going. Wang Lin stared at it with a dumbfounded expression. Just at that moment, the pillar dissolved into countless silver specks. Wang Lin stared at that location and kept observing. Half an hour later, the light pillar appeared again. This cycle continued several times. After watching it for a whole day, Wang Lin was finally able to gain some insight. According to Wang Lin's judgment, this light pillar had something to do with sunlight. It seemed that although this place was in ruins, there were still some functioning treasures. After absorbing enough light, it will activate its ability. And it seemed that a lot of wild beasts knew of the healing effect of the light pillar. Within that day, Wang Lin saw no less than 20 wounded wild beasts making their way to the pillar. Seeing that it was getting dark, Wang Lin calculated that the last pillar was about to appear. Without any hesitation, he charged forward and stuck his hand into the light pillar. He felt a very warm air flowing through the light. This was not the feeling of spiritual power, but something Wang Lin had never felt before. While slowly feeling the air current, Wang Lin's eyes lit up. He cut his arm and put it inside the light pillar. In the blink of an eye, the wound was healed. Wang Lin pondered for a while. Without a word, he moved within the ruin and arrived before a large tower. This was the ruin of a giant cylindrical tower. Looking from the outside, it was clear that part of the tower had fallen over. However, even with just the ruin, it was clear how glorious it once was. Two giant statues holding swords stood, and on top of them was a tower about 30 meters high. Wang Lin stared at the ruin. His mind couldn't help but imagine the moment that this once glorious tower snapped in half and part of it fell down on the two statues. The light pillar came from a stone bead that was about 2 meters in diameter at the top of the tower. While standing next to the stone bead, Wang Lin began to hesitate. The stone bead was too large and couldn't easily be moved. He also wasn't sure how the stone bead healed. He was afraid that if he removed it, it would stop it from working. After thinking about it again, he didn't carelessly act, but started to observe the area instead. Gradually, Wang Lin's expression became strange. After checking the area, he found that something was off. In some of the well-preserved ruins, there were porcelain wares that were still intact. Some of them even had a black substance in them. The sky was getting even darker now. Wang Lin quickly left the ruin. When the sky was completely dark, Wang Lin arrived back at the jungle. He stared back at the ruins with shining eyes. Wang Lin suddenly had a wild guess. One day, while a family was having dinner, disaster struck. Without the people having any time to respond, the entire city was laid to waste. At this point, slivers of cold energy came from the ruins. This energy became denser and denser, until it felt like it had taken a solid form. Looking at the size of these ruins, I'm afraid the population of this city was at least 10 million. The graveyard of 10 million people should be one of the best places to cultivate the underworld ascension method. Situnan explained in great detail about the places with extreme Yin during Wang Lin's closed-door training. There were 4 types of extreme Yin places. They were Heavenly Yin, Earth Yin, Mystery Yin, and Underworld Yin. Underworld Yin was the simplest to find. The more death there was in a place, the more death Yin there was. Mystery Yin was a bit hard. It only appeared in extremely cold places. Earth Yin was even harder and completely relied on luck to find. After all, Earth Yin was the Yin emitted from the abyss within the earth. As for Heaven Yin, it was basically impossible to find. In order to find Heaven Yin, a place needs to have Underworld Yin, Mystery Yin, and Earth Yin at the same time. If those 3 come together, they will change into Heaven Yin. The higher quality the Yin, the more benefits it brings to the cultivator. Wang Lin immediately formed a seal with his right hand and he began to chant. Suddenly, specks of red light gathered before him until they formed a red ball of light. This was a technique especially made to test the quality of the Yin. Based on the color of the light, one could determine what type of Yin there was. The ball could become purple, black, silver, or red, matching with Heaven, Earth, Mystery, and Underworld Yin respectively. Situnan had also explained that even among the same type of extreme Yin, there were 4 different qualities which were ordinary, good, dense, and extreme Yin. Each level was divided into 10 ranks as well. In general, achieving ordinary rank 3 was enough to cultivate the underworld ascension method. Having ordinary rank 8 was enough to speed up the cultivation. After the red ball of light appeared, it became brighter and brighter. Finally, it shone 5 times. Wang Lin touched his chin. Shining 5 times meant that this place had ordinary rank 5 underworld Yin. After pondering for a while, he walked toward the center of the ruins without a word. The surrounding Yin energy became even denser as he walked closer to the center. The Yin energy was so dense, it made him feel like he was walking underwater. Just a few hundred steps and he already felt like he couldn't breathe. The ball of light became brighter and bright as it followed Wang Lin. This area was ordinary rank 8. Wang Lin didn't stop and continued for a few hundred more meters, until he arrived before the ruin of the giant stone bead. He could no longer continue forward. Slivers of Yin energy entered his body. His blood vessels began to feel painful, and he was starting to lose control of his spiritual energy. At this point, the red ball split into 2 with a bang. Wang Lin's eyes lit up. He knew that this meant that this place had reached good quality rank 1. According to the information Wang Lin had gathered while scouting the ruins during the day, he knew that he was probably not even 1/10,000th of the way in. And the deeper he went, the stronger the Yin energy became. This is absolutely the best place to cultivate. Wang Lin slowly backed up until he was at the ordinary rank 5 location. This was the location Wang Lin had decided was the most suitable place for his current body. The density of the Yin energy for the underworld ascension method must be increased gradually. This was a point Situnan kept stressing before he went to sleep. Wang Lin pondered a little. He sat down cross-legged, closed his eyes, and began to cultivate. In his mind, Situnan's instructions for the underworld ascension method echoed. This underworld ascension method can be divided into 9 layers. Every 3 layers, one can form a cold core. Once all 9 levels are complete and the 3 cores fuse, there is a certain chance to instantly break into the core formation stage. This was the biggest reason Wang Lin became determined to practice the underworld ascension method. Situnan also picked this because it was most suitable for Wang Lin, and would increase his cultivation level quickest. Of course, there are faster methods like core stealing, but with Wang Lin's current cultivation level, to try and capture a core formation cultivator was no different than committing suicide. The cold core from the Underworld Ascension method relies on meridian awakening. Meridian awakening is a process that anyone who practices the Underworld Ascension method has to go through. There are 3 key meridian awakenings in the Underworld Ascension method. They are the Dantian, Qi-Si, and Ancestral Meridian. The moment one of those 3 meridians awaken, a cold core is formed. The moment a cold core is formed, the spiritual energy in one's body will become cold. As for the success rate of the meridian awakening, it is heavily related to the quality of the yin. Time quickly passed. When he opened his eyes again, light was appearing and the yin energy was quickly dispersing. The moment the sun appeared, all of the yin energy disappeared. Wang Lin stood up. Since he decided to cultivate here, he should find a place to stay. He looked around and locked his sights on a collapsed house nearby. With the wave of his right hand, all of the debris and rubble flew to the side, clearing out a small area. After finishing everything, Wang Lin sat down in the middle of the cleared area. He took out a book and started to carefully read it. This was the book about formations he got at Tong Family City for a mid-quality spirit stone 2 years ago. Before, he only flipped through the book and found that there was very detailed information about setting up and controlling formations inside. After memorizing all of the information in the book, Wang Lin began to ponder. His hand constantly moved as he unconsciously drew something in the air. The day quickly passed and it was now dusk. Wang Lin sighed and opened his eyes. He muttered, "Formations are really deep and complex. Even though the formations in this book are only some simple ones, it still took me an entire day to get some understanding. The illusion formations in the book are especially complex. It relies a lot on predication, and the farther you predict, the harder it gets." Feeling helpless, he gave up on trying to figure out how they worked and just tried them out. He activated the attraction technique and moved rocks to a place outside the room. Following the instructions carefully, Wang Lin managed to make a simple formation called the Minor Confusion Formation. This formation was too rough and simple. It didn't even have the minimum amount of formation flags. Wang Lin bitterly smiled as he looked at the rocks, then at the book. He made some adjustments and the formation finally looked like the one in the book. Wang Lin took a deep breath. His hand formed the instructed seals. Then, a mist suddenly appeared and covered the surrounding area. Wang Lin stared at the mist and let out a bitter smile. This formation might trick some mortals, but it won't do anything against cultivators, so it won't protect him while he cultivates. After pondering for a while, Wang Lin muttered, "If one isn't enough, then I'll lay down 2. If anything, I can just lay down all of the formations in the book. It should more or less have some effect." With that, Wang Lin used his attraction technique and moved the rocks in the area. After playing with a few more formations, night came again. Wang Lin sat cross-legged on the ground. The moment the yin energy appeared, he took a deep breath, put his hands on his knees and began cultivating. His breathing method was 1 long 5 short. 1 long means he takes a very long breath in and 5 short means that when he breathes out, the time is only of the time he used to breath in. This is the fastest way to absorb yin energy. Strictly speaking, this was the first time he had absorbed outside energy to cultivate. In the last 2 years, he had always been using spiritual liquid inside the heaven-defying bead, so it had all been internal absorption. This yin energy was basically the same as spiritual energy. Wang Lin had cultivated for many years, so he was very used to this, but he immediately noticed a difference. When he absorbed spiritual energy, there was always a layer blocking that spiritual energy from entering his body. Even when it did enter, a large amount would disappear before he could absorb it. However, this was not the same. That thin layer was no longer there, and the yin energy entered his body at an overwhelming rate. Also, his body felt different from before. Large portions of the yin energy that entered his body was absorbed, unlike before. Wang Lin pondered about this for a while and he came up with 3 possible answers. One was that the yin energy was different from spiritual energy and was more suited for him to cultivate. 2. Foundation establishment cultivators absorbed spiritual energy faster than qi condensation cultivators. 3. After absorbing part of Tung Li's spirit root, his own talent had increased a lot. As for which answer was correct, Wang Lin didn't pursue it any longer and instead focused his mind on cultivation. At the start, Wang Lin felt very uncomfortable due to the cold nature of the yin energy. When he absorbed the yin energy, it would immediately enter his body and go into his organs. The cold being emitted from inside his body made him shiver. This was the complete opposite of what it felt like to absorb spiritual energy. One gave you a very warm and comfortable feeling, while the other made you feel like you were being frozen. As Wang Lin absorbed more and more yin energy, his hands and feet became cold. Then, his blood started to become thicker and even his heartbeat slowed down. Frost started to appear on his eyebrows, hair, and all of the pores in his body. A surge of cold came from inside his body and perfectly fused with the surroundings. Time flew by. When the sun rose and the yin energy dispersed, Wang Lin's eyelids trembled as he opened his eyes. He exhaled a breath of white gas. After a night of cultivation, a small mass of yin energy appeared in his dantian. This small mass slowly rotated, releasing yin energy. The spiritual energy in his body didn't reject this mass of yin energy. They ignored each other and didn't interact. Touching his stomach, Wang Lin muttered, "I finally understand why this is called the Underworld Ascension Method." The Underworld Ascension Method makes one enter a near-death state when cultivating. One uses this state of being close to entering the underworld to make it easier for the body to absorb yin energy. However, if a mistake is made, one might really enter the underworld. In truth, even in a rank 6 country, not many people have the courage to cultivate the Underworld Ascension Method. Situnan was one of the few that had successfully cultivated this method. Even among all the demon cultivators in the rank 6 countries, this was still considered a strange method. The reason it's considered a strange technique is because the change is too great. For some, the change is great for the cultivator, while for others the change means death. Wang Lin started living in the ruins. Every night, he would cultivate and absorb the yin energy. A month had passed. During this month, besides cultivating the Underworld Ascension Method, Wang Lin also noticed that the heaven-defying bead could produce spirit liquid here. However, the power contained in the spirit liquid wasn't spiritual power, but yin power. As a result, Wang Lin gained a bit more understanding of the bead. Wang Lin started to collect yin spirit liquid. Midnight was when the most yin spirit liquid appeared. After taking the yin spirit liquid, he noticed that although it contained a lot of yin energy, compared to the spiritual energy in normal spirit liquid, it was not on the same level. If comparing the effectiveness of the yin spirit liquid to normal spirit liquid, then it was only on the level of soaking the bead in snow water. It was far from the pure spirit liquid. Wang Lin knew that, plainly speaking, the Underworld Ascension Method was all about how much yin energy one could absorb. The more one absorbed, the more powerful they'd become. As a result, Wang Lin entered the heaven-defying bead space to cultivate with the yin spirit liquid during the day. With the passage of time, Wang Lin began to absorb more and more yin energy. Every time he cultivated, he would slowly blend into the surrounding yin energy. Each time, his heartbeat would slow down until it became so faint, it looked as if his heart stopped. There were even a couple of times when his heartbeat almost stopped, but he managed to hold out. One morning, Wang Lin woke from his trance. He took a deep breath and said, "I have absorbed a lot of yin energy. I should be able to make the first breakthrough now." Suddenly, he stared at the surrounding fog formation and revealed a confused look. He waved his sleeves and a path opened within the fog. Wang Lin walked out of the formation and saw several deep marks that went deep into the ruins. He remembered that there were some injured wild beasts that couldn't hold out while waiting for the light pillar. But now the wild beasts' corpses were gone. They seemed to have been dragged into the depths of the ruins. Could there still be people inside the ruins? A cold thought entered Wang Lin's mind. When this person came to drag the corpses away, how come he didn't notice them? Wang Lin's eyes became more serious. He quickly checked around his room and found that there were no signs of attack on his formations. He stroked his chin. Then his body shot out like lightning into the jungle and returned with 2 beast carcasses. After tossing them to the side, he returned to his formation and shot out a white light. The fog of the formation became even thicker and a rumbling sound could be heard in the fog. Having done all of this, Wang Lin still felt uneasily, as if there was a giant shadow looming over him. After a long time, he calmed down and spread out his divine sense. He drank some EN spirit liquid and started to cultivate while vigilantly watching his surroundings. Night came. On this night, Wang Lin didn't absorb any EN energy, but focused his attention on his surroundings. He spread his divine sense to its maximum range. He could feel even a blade of grass moving hundreds of meters away. He paid extra attention to the two carcasses. He wanted to see what kind of creature lived in the ruins and would come here at night. Time slowly passed. Midnight was approaching and the EN energy was becoming extremely dense. Wang Lin didn't cultivate, but carefully watched his surroundings. In the area of his divine sense, it was completely silent. The two carcasses started to accumulate frost thanks to the EN energy that entered them. Even the jungle outside the ruins was silent to a frightening degree. This was not the first time Wang Lin spread out his divine sense at night. Before, even this late at night, there would be a few cries from beasts. This was the first time it was this silent. Suddenly, Wang Lin's expression changed as the EN energy in the ruin started to stir. His eyes focused on the EN energy as he sneered and watched with cold eyes. He saw that following the disturbance of EN energy in the ruin, a figure quickly appeared. The figure's speed was too quick. Wang Lin's divine sense only saw a shadow before the two carcasses disappeared. Wang Lin was startled. When the figure first appeared, he saw what it looked like. It was a humanoid creature with blue skin. The person's skin was covered in strange symbols. In addition, there were 9 half-inch yellow papers placed on various parts of the person's body. This strange person made Wang Lin very surprised. The strange person appeared again. He stood outside Wang Lin's formation with a thinking expression. The strange person took a few steps back. He stared at the fog with doubt in his eyes. After hesitating for a bit, he circled the fog once. Wang Lin focused his attention on observing the strange person and didn't attack. He wanted to see what this strange person could do. After the strange person circled the fog formation once, he revealed a curious look. Then it charged into the formation. The moment he entered the formation, killing intent filled Wang Lin's eyes. His right hand formed a seal and a white light shot into the formation. The fog quickly moved as if it was boiling. Shortly after, sounds of rocks breaking could be heard as the formations were broken one by one. The density of the fog also decreased. Wang Lin opened his mouth and spat out a green light. The moment the green light appeared, it shot out like lightning. With a boom, the green light hit the strange person, causing him to let out an angry roar. A powerful force spread out, blowing all of the stones into the air and turning them to dust. As the fog quickly dissipated, the strange person spotted Wang Lin. His eyes were bloodshot as he walked toward Wang Lin. Wang Lin's expression remained the same. He moved his right hand in the air and the green sword appeared behind the strange person. The sword pierced through the strange person's heart and blue blood burst out of his chest. The moment the blood appeared, it turned into ice crystals and fell to the ground. The strange person let out a painful groan as it quickly took a few steps back, revealing a horrified expression. Wang Lin's heart sank. The strange person received an attack from the flying sword, and was still able to move afterwards. A cold light flashed across his eyes as he slapped his bag of holding, and an ancient sword scabbard appeared in his hand. The green flying sword quickly entered the sword scabbard out of the way. The green sword quickly turned from green to blue, then blue to black. The sword left the scabbard and quickly slashed toward the strange person. The strange person saw the black sword and revealed a horrified expression. Just as he was about to back away, the black sword rushed forward and stabbed his chest. A series of explosions occurred inside the strange person's body, causing him to fly backwards like a kite with a broken string. After the flying sword was stained with the strange person's blood, it became stuck inside his body. No matter how hard Wang Lin willed it to move, it wouldn't budge. It even lost its ability to teleport. Shocked, Wang Lin's killing intent became even stronger. He saw earlier that just as the flying sword pierced into the strange person, the strange symbols on his body gleamed. He clearly used some sort of technique to block that blow. Without a word, he slapped his bag of holding and took out the yellow talisman he got from Zhang Hu. Suddenly, Wang Lin's pupils shrank. He saw that strange person's body turn in an unimaginable angle in mid-air and landed on the ground. There was a large wound on his chest that splurted out large amounts of blue blood. The symbols on his body flickered in a chaotic manner. As the symbols gleamed, his wound was rapidly recovering. Wang Lin didn't even bat an eye. He spat out a mouthful of spiritual power into the yellow talisman. The yellow talisman bursted into hot, black flames and hit the wounded area of the strange person. The strange person let out a painful scream as his body was pierced through again. Still not dead. Wang Lin's heart sank. Even after receiving this much damage, he was still alive. What gave Wang Lin a bit of peace of mind was after the talisman's attack landed, the sword was able to break free and return to his side. The strange person's eyes revealed a struggling expression. Suddenly, he ripped off one of the 9 yellow papers. The moment that yellow paper was ripped, green gas spewed from all over his body and surrounded him completely. Wang Lin's face became gloomy. Without hesitation, he put the sword into the scabbard and pushed down. Of the way. The sword quickly turned from black to red. Of the way was the limit of how far Wang Lin could push the sword into the scabbard. With his early-stage foundation establishment cultivation and the sword after it had been of the way into the sword scabbard, he could put up a fight against mid-stage foundation establishment cultivators. Just at that moment, the green gas surrounding the strange person was quickly absorbed by his body. When he appeared again before Wang Lin, his body was perfectly fine, without a hint of the wound. He stared at Wang Lin with hate in his eyes. However, he obviously felt a lot of dread toward Wang Lin, mostly because of that flying sword. Who are you? Wang Lin didn't immediately attack. The other person had 9 talismans. Using one of them allowed the person to recover completely from a near-death state. This battle would take a very long time for Wang Lin to win. Wang Lin's eyes flashed cold as he said, "I'm here to cultivate, so unless it's really needed, I don't want to act. If you back off and never disturb me again, I will let you go and forget about this matter." The strange man let out a puzzled expression and said some strange words. It was clear that he didn't understand Wang Lin, and Wang Lin couldn't understand him. Wang Lin slightly narrowed his eyes and slowly moved to a broken wall. The strange man quickly became alert when he saw Wang Lin move. Wang Lin waved his right hand quickly as he drew on the broken wall. The strange man was dumbfounded. As he stared at Wang Lin's finger, he revealed a look of understanding. Wang Lin's finger quickly drew a picture of the ruin and then, with a slash of his finger, he drew a line that split the ruin in half. Then, Wang Lin pointed at the strange man and pointed to the right half of the picture, then pointed at himself followed by the left side of the picture. After doing all that, Wang Lin's finger slowly moved left and right, leaving a mark on the wall as he stared at the strange man. His eyes were filled with killing intent, his intention obvious. "If you come to my side again, I'll waste my spiritual power to kill you." The strange man was surprised. He hesitated for a while as he rubbed his chest with a look of fear in his eyes. He looked at the flying sword with dread in his eyes and let out a shout of strange words. Wang Lin frowned. After the strange person saw that Wang Lin didn't understand him, he quickly became frantic and started waving his hand. He then suddenly hit his head and moved next to a wall and punched it. The moment he punched the wall, a symbol on his body lit up and the wall crumbled. The strange person picked up some pieces of the broken wall. He stared at them with reminiscence in his eyes. He placed the rocks on the ground, then stared at Wang Lin and shouted a few words. Wang Lin's face relaxed a bit. He grabbed in the air and suddenly, all of the stones next to the strange person moved to the side in a specific order. Then, his right hand formed a seal and shot out a light. Soon, the fog formed around the range of the stone. Wang Lin started at the strange person and calmly asked, "Is this restriction that you're talking about?" The strange person quickly revealed an excited expression as he waved his hand and beat his chest. Suddenly, a symbol on his body lit up and he opened his arms. The ground suddenly shook and the piece of land the rock formation was on floated into the air, leaving behind a huge hole in the ground. The small confusion formation floated in the air like a small mountain above the strange person's head. He nodded toward Wang Lin, then quickly left. After moving a bit away, he paused and turned to face Wang Lin. He shouted some words at Wang Lin and made a gesture before disappearing into the distance. Wang Lin stared at the strange person's figure. It was not that he didn't think about killing the strange man, but the yellow talisman on him was too powerful. Unless it was absolutely necessary, He didn't want to get into a life-and-death fight with the strange man. As he was thinking this, his expression suddenly changed. The flying sword flew to his side as his eyes became filled with killing intent. The strange person came back. Wang Lin stared at the figure before him and said with a cold voice, "You're courting death." The strange man quickly stopped. He was holding a round object in his hand. He waved his hand and tried to explain. After seeing that Wang Lin's eyes were still cold, he threw the round object toward Wang Lin. Wang Lin slowly took a few steps. The strange man didn't use a lot of strength, so the round object rolled a bit and stopped before Wang Lin. After he threw the object, the strange man let out a smile toward Wang Lin and left. At this point, the day was still bright, so Wang Lin cautiously looked at the direction of the figure. After a long time, he withdrew his gaze. He walked up to the round object and looked down. This was a bead that was only 1/10 the size of a fist. It was covered in dust and even had some cracks on it. After looking at the bead for a while, he let out a surprised expression. He took a stone from the ground and lightly hit the bead. The bead rolled backward for a bit. Slivers of weak spiritual power leaked from the bead. "This is a treasure?" He was stunned. He grabbed the air with his right hand and the bead floated into the air. After observing it for a while, he grabbed it with his right hand without any hesitation. He scanned it with his divine sense and fed it some spiritual power. Suddenly, white smoke came out of the bead. The smoke floated above and formed the shape of an old man. The old man had the hair of a crane, the skin of a chicken, the beak of an eagle, and the head of a harrier. The old man emitted a dangerous aura. He casually looked at Wang Lin and revealed a sarcastic smile. He said, "Do you dare to fight with this old man?" Wang Lin was stunned and took a few steps back. After carefully looking, he noticed that the person was only at the 15th layer of qi condensation. He rubbed his nose. His eyes lit up and he quickly sent more spiritual power into the stone bead. With the input of spiritual energy, the old man's spiritual power quickly rose until it reached mid-stage foundation establishment. The old man's hair moved without wind and his body released a huge fighting aura. The old man floated into the air and said, "Do you dare to fight with this old man?" Wang Lin was completely astonished. He had no idea what use this bead had and decided to pour more spiritual power into it. The old man's eyes shined brightly and his aura quickly increased. His hand moved, causing thunderous roars as his cultivation raised to the point where Wang Lin couldn't even tell what cultivation level the old man was at. The old man's cultivation had already reached a degree that would cause fear with just a glance. The old man let out a breath and released the aura of a peerless expert. He held his hand behind his back and said, "Those below the core formation stage don't have the right to fight me." Scram! Wang Lin withdrew his spiritual power and the old man quickly disappeared and turned back into the white smoke. The smoke returned to the bead and with a crackling sound, another crack appeared on the bead. Wang Lin stared at the stone bead and was unable to utter a word. He was completely convinced of the effect of the stone bead. The stone bead was an illusionary magical treasure, and the illusion it created was almost no different from reality. The old man, regardless of the way he spoke, the aura of a master that he emitted was perfect, just like that last line. "Those below core formation stage don't have the right to fight me." Scram! The aura and expression had reached its peak. Wang Lin believed that even if it was himself, he wouldn't be able to tell that it was a fake. After all, from the view of most people, the old man had the aura of an old master. And with the increase in his own cultivation, he could put more spiritual power into the bead and the power of the old man would increase. This was really the best method to scare people. Wang Lin put away the treasure and muttered to himself, "This strange blue person is really interesting." He must have felt bad after breaking the little confusion formation, so he gave me this treasure. From this little exchange, he immediately realized that the strange person couldn't use magic treasures and that within the ruin, there must be more magic treasures. Now this ruined city became a treasure trove in Wang Lin's eyes. This place has a mysterious light that heals wounds, an illusionary magic treasure, and a strange blue person. What other secrets does this place have? Wang Lin rubbed his chin. Currently, the day was still bright, so he put down the formations again. He sat down in the middle and drank some spirit liquid, then started to cultivate. 2 months flew by. On this day, Wang Lin sat cross-legged in the room. In the 2 months of cultivating the extreme EN energy, he had gathered enough energy to attempt the first breakthrough. Wang Lin's eyes lit up. He had already finished studying the underworld ascension method and knew very well how the 3 big breakthroughs will be. The 3 key points of breaking through were the dantian in his stomach, the qi in his chest, and the progenitor meridian. These 3 locations needed to be broken through 3 times each to form the cold cores. In simpler terms, for the first level, the dantian must be opened, and when it's time to reach level 2, the opening at the dantian must be crushed and opened again. The principle of the underworld method was to break first, then recover to gain more strength. Wang Lin pondered for a moment, then moved the EN energy in his dantian in order to start his first breakthrough. Under his control, the EN energy spun faster and faster, causing a sharp pain in his stomach. Wang Lin was very familiar with the technique, so he knew that the stronger the pain, the closer the moment of the breakthrough. This type of pain was not something a normal person could withstand. The feeling was as if someone pierced his stomach with a sword and churned it around. In just a few breaths, Wang Lin was covered in cold sweat. The EN energy quickly turned into a swirl under the spin as it grew wider. Looking from the outside, Wang Lin's stomach turned green and frost started to gather all over his body. Wang Lin gritted his teeth as the pain got even worse. Suddenly, the cold energy swept through his body. At this point, with the spin of the EN energy, a black hole appeared. The moment it appeared, all of the EN energy sank into it like rocks in water. Shortly after, all of the spiritual energy also started being devoured as it left his body and entered the black hole. A strange change happened inside the black hole. The spiritual power that always ignored the EN energy, while in Wang Lin's body, started to fight with the EN energy. The 2 energies fiercely clashed against each other for control. Gradually, the EN energy and spiritual power started to devour and mix with each other, and formed a new type of spiritual power that slowly spun inside the black hole. The first layer of the underworld ascension method was complete. The meridian in his dantian was ready to be opened. Wang Lin calmed himself and transferred of the EN energy outside of his dantian toward his dantian. The EN energy didn't enter his dantian, but surrounded it and started to charge into the black hole. Although with every charge there was some lost, the EN energy became more and more fierce as it kept charging in his dantian as if it was waging war. After a long time, the black hole started to crack, and at that moment Wang Lin quickly transferred another of the EN energy from his body. In one move, he opened the meridian in his dantian. For an instant, Wang Lin felt extreme pain. The moment the black hole broke, the mysterious power started to fill his body. Wang Lin didn't even blink. He started to charge the next meridian. This time it took a lot longer than before, and after seeing that there might not be enough EN energy, Wang Lin added the remaining of the EN energy into the EN energy stream. The EN energy steam formed a swirl that was several times larger than the previous one. The swirl spun faster and faster, meaning the time for the breakthrough was close. Night slowly came. Wang Lin was still in the late stage of the breakthrough. The swirl was still spinning, and because it was spinning so fast it looked like a nebula. Although it looked very slow from the outside, in reality it was spinning too fast for the eye to see. All the way until midnight, when the EN energy was most dense, Wang Lin's body was still like a black hole. There was a swirl of EN energy 20 feet wide spinning around him, quickly being absorbed. Within 10 feet of Wang Lin, it was like a meat grinder for EN energy. All of the EN energy was being devoured at an insane speed. The massive amount of EN energy was absorbed by Wang Lin and instantly added to the swirl in his body. The swirl became larger and larger, until it was almost out of Wang Lin's control and still growing unrestrained. He was immediately stunned and wanted to stop, but found that he could no longer control the swirl as he watched it grow larger and larger. Wang Lin started to become nervous as there was no record of this in the records of the underworld ascension method. Wang Lin didn't know that the reason the underworld ascension method was called a demonic technique was because the variations were too great. Some were very beneficial while others would kill the user. And Situ Nan was still asleep, so Wang Lin had to resolve this himself. As the swirl grew, the suction force grew as well, and the 10-foot radius quickly increased. This was a very vicious cycle. The wider the range, the more EN energy it will absorb. The more EN energy meant the faster the swirl will grow, meaning more EN energy will be absorbed. 20 feet, 30 feet, 50 feet, 70 feet, 100 feet. All of the EN energy within a 100-foot radius started to move violently as it rushed toward Wang Lin. This large movement of EN energy affected all of the EN energy within 1,000 feet, causing it to move as if there was a giant hand guiding it. Wang Lin had already completely lost control of the swirl, and after an unknown amount of time, his dantian broke through with a bang. This was the second time his dantian broke through, and just like the first time, it formed a black hole in his dantian. The change in his body immediately caused the EN energy absorbed to move as well. If Wang Lin was endlessly absorbing EN energy from the surroundings before, that suction was now devouring it. In a moment, all of the EN energy within 100 feet was instantly devoured by the black hole, causing an even more widespread disturbance of EN energy. Soon, the swirl increased from 100 feet to 150 feet, 200 feet, 300 feet, 500 feet, 700 feet, and eventually more than 1,000 feet. If one looked from the sky, they would witness a very shocking scene. All of the EN energy was violently surging around one center point. In the depths of the ruins, the strange blue person was holding the body of a beast in his hand. He bit off a chunk of meat and started to chew it when he suddenly turned to Wang Lin's direction and revealed a shocked expression. He quickly threw away his food and ran toward Wang Lin like a frightened rabbit. After walking a few steps, he paused and noticed that all of the EN energy was rushing toward the same direction. He hesitated a bit, but continued. However, he stopped 3,000 feet away from Wang Lin's location, and his expression became even more shocked. As for Wang Lin, the moment he made his breakthrough, all of the changed spiritual energy quickly gathered in the black hole in his dantian and fused together. The moment all of the spiritual energy fused back together, he gained some control of the swirl in his body. However, the amount of control was very small, and not nearly enough to stop the swirl of EN energy inside him. Wang Lin clenched his teeth. He decided to quit trying to stop the absorption of EN energy and to break through a third time. Under Wang Lin's control, the large amount of EN energy smashed into his dantian. His dantian shattered into many blue specks, and within the blue specks was a dark blue crystal. Large amounts of EN energy surrounded and entered the dark blue crystal. The crystal's color got darker and darker until it became green. The 3 breakthroughs were easily completed, and a cold core appeared in Wang Lin's dantian. Many small hands extended from the cold core and reached every part of Wang Lin's body. The spiritual energy in his body quickly underwent change after the appearance of the cold core. Wang Lin was still surrounded by EN energy, and he had a feeling that if he kept absorbing the EN energy, he would explode. This feeling was confirmed when he started to feel a sense of swelling. Wang Lin clenched his teeth again and decided that it was all or nothing. He moved the EN energy and decided to attempt the 4th breakthrough. Situnan had pointed out that the 1st, 4th, and 7th layers were extremely hard because those were the first times one attempted to make a breakthrough in the dantian, qi, and ancestral meridian. One was supposed to stop after making the 3rd breakthrough in order to nurture the cold core before attempting the 4th breakthrough. But the spiritual energy in Wang Lin's body had already mixed with the vast EN energy, and because he needed to expend it, he could only attempt the 4th breakthrough. The qi in his chest opened. The EN swirl slowly raised upward until it reached the qi and started to spin faster again. The swirl endlessly devoured EN energy. Wang Lin tried to break through time and time again, but he failed each time. The sky was slowly starting to light up. The EN energy within 1,000 feet slowly dissipated, until all of it disappeared. The qi in his chest still remained unopened. Wang Lin finally understood why the underworld ascension method was so difficult. He had already tried to open his qi over 100 times, but he failed every time, and every time it failed he lost some EN energy. The large amount of EN energy was gradually used up by all of the attempts to break through. Along with the fact that day arrived and all of the EN energy dissipated, the remaining EN energy was slowly absorbed by Wang Lin's cold core. Wang Lin absorbed too much EN energy this night. All of the spiritual energy in his body underwent a change and changed to EN spiritual energy. In terms of quantity, Wang Lin could clearly feel that his EN spiritual energy amounted to twice as much as his spiritual energy from before, meaning that he was now at the peak of early-stage foundation establishment. He opened his eyes and recalled what had happened last night. Although he was alarmed, he was mostly weighing the pros and cons of this type of cultivation. The unexpected occurrence during his nighttime cultivation opened up a new way of thinking for him. The advantage of this type of cultivation was self-explanatory, and the con was that it was too dangerous. One wrong move and he would have exploded, but thanks to this experience he will have full control next time and that will lower the danger. Wang Lin muttered. It seems I have to find a new shelter. Although the amount of EN energy is great, the quality is too low to satisfy my needs to make a breakthrough. Right now, Wang Lin's chance of a breaking through was too low, but according to the records, the higher the quality of the EN energy, the better the chance for a breakthrough. Wang Lin remembered the test he did a few months ago and remembered that the pillar around the stone bead was high quality rank 1, so he made his decision. At the same time, the sky outside the forest suddenly darkened as an old man releasing a huge pressure silently appeared. He looked at the forest below him with powerful killing intent in his eyes. Li Er, Grandpa Tai is here to get revenge for you. The person who came was the Tang family ancestor, Donghua. He cursed during the entire trip here. But no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't find the exact location of his grandson's killer. It was as if there was some fog blocking him. He was unable to determine the exact location, but knew that the killer was in the jungle below him. As for this jungle, it was a place he didn't want to venture into unless he had no choice. With just a scan, he could tell how dangerous it was, and that it contained a being that even he didn't dare to mess with. But because of Tung Li's death, he couldn't be bothered by much. He believed that as long as he was very quiet and only searched for his enemy, the powerful being wouldn't mind. After pondering for a while, he clenched his teeth and charged into the forest. Within the depths of the jungle ruins, the lid of a coffin opened without a sound. A withered hand glowing black and purple light slowly appeared from within the coffin. The hand gripped hard and suddenly, a purple ball of lightning appeared in the hand, releasing a dangerous aura. The 100-year time is up. My master, you gave up your body to run away before, but this time you won't be able to get away.